she said, if I had to write a resume, I don't know what I would call myself.
Well, that's because she's had about 6 different jobs in the last 5 years.
If she doesn't know, then
and she's also never had to write a resume, let's be honest.
Yeah. But that's it. That's the truth. If she doesn't know, how are we supposed to know?
And also, I think the lens through which she views the world is very peculiar. Like this idea that we don't talk to women about money. We don't talk to a lot of people about money, men or women. Young people, and it's in fact many generations, don't really grow up with an understanding of how to manage money, how to make money, like all these candid conversations about finances, especially in Britain where we don't really talk about salaries and all of that. So I just think her trying to posit herself as a champion of women and trying to shoehorn this particularly niche view of the world into something that's a bit more nuanced and complicated. It's just like, you don't need to do that. You're hot, you married a prince, give us the tea. That's all we need from her. And I feel like she just doesn't want to be, the prince's wife, as South Park, the South Park episode. She wants to be something that she really isn't. Like all these projects that she's been doing that have arguably not done very well. She just thinks it's a learning process and she'll get there and all of that. She doesn't see it the way that most of the world is, which is she has a very rich husband. What she's doing is low risk. She could be losing that family 100 to 500 grand a year and it wouldn't dent their pockets really because he came in as a very comfortable millionaire. Their Netflix deal has made them a lot of money. So she can be doing all these projects and thinking of herself as some sort of trailblazer. If I was a rich man and I had a wife and she was like, oh, I want to open a salon, go on. If it makes you happy, I'm happy to lose 200K a year because it doesn't really affect our finances.
And as well, it's almost like that it's quite jarring then because she has the guests on, for example, Jamie Kern-Lima and Sarah Blakely, who have created really, really successful businesses from very high-risk situations.
Yeah, exactly.
Particularly Sarah Blakely. She talks about how she started off with $5,000 US dollars. See, again, that's the difference, I suppose, where you've got Meghan calling herself a founder as well, which, yes, she has founded a business, but it is low stakes.
That's the cost price of one of her shoes.
Yes, and you're talking to someone who has created a business. It's apples and oranges. It's a very different thing. Yeah. Look, maybe her business will take off in a really massive way in the future, and then the season 2 of this show will have more insights from her that we probably could, take on board a little more. But that's it. You get to the end of it, and it's like, what have I learnt?
So what is the kind of answer to, if I had to write a resume, I don't know what I would call myself? I mean, is there any suggestions for her? She doesn't seem to know. If she doesn't seem to know, then it's quite a problem.
She's a content
hot girl,
creator.
that's the first one, hot girl. She's professional hot girl.
She's a content creator / influencer now, I would say. And there's nothing wrong with those things. But the influencer part, I mean, she's selling the stuff on Instagram.
Former actress. I mean, I find it strange that she didn't quite lean into the things that she has professional credits for. Like she didn't do some theatre charity, theatre charity or things. I just wish she did things that are less vacuous. Like even if you don't necessarily want to talk about heavy things, heavy topics like domestic violence or skin bleaching or anything like that, I think she has done enough in her life to do things that are aligned with her professional experience that are not as heavy, like things to do with theatre and art and, promoting, women in a realistic way, not this kind of very glossy sheen, all these rich women with very rich husbands that had very little to lose except a couple of her guests, just be real, just be honest and do something that's a bit more authentic, I think.
And I get a bit frustrated with her overusing this, and this might be a little bit too sensitive for me, but, I have a son, and when I hear people from positions of great privilege where they can, afford nannies and a lot of help, go on and on and on about the working mum thing, yes, it's time away from your kid. I definitely understand that aspect, but it's not the same as the working mum idea that, a lot of the rest of the world has to deal with. And so she really leans into that a lot. And I think, well, is this a struggle that you have a lot? You do have help and also you are at home a lot. I don't know. I find that a little bit grating.
I don't even want it to feel like we're beating down on everything she does. I genuinely wish her all the success. She has, whenever I read stories about her and her getting divorced, I just think that's horrible. I don't want her to get divorced. They have children. I wish her every success, but I feel sad that she feels the need to be this thing that she's clearly not. She's not a chemist, she's not a physicist, and that's fine. Sometimes it's okay to just be pretty and to have good fortune in life and to ride that wave.
I think that I was always hopeful that when she leaned into, as I've said on the show a number of times, when she leaned into the lifestyle space, clearly she loves that. I thought maybe we're going to see a more relaxed, casual, real Meghan. I really hoped that would work. I thought that was going to be a good idea for her. I have been disappointed by the output because you're right. It's not about sitting here and bashing on her. We wanted, you want people to be happy and have success. Yeah. And I think it's just not quite landed for a lot of people, particularly now the show's wrapped up.
Well, success-wise, we're going to get a third series, we think, of her cookery show.
Which is baffling.
Have invested so much in her as a kind of future product for them. And we've got Ted Sarandos, we believe, and I'm not sure if it's a direct quote, but they believe that Meghan is a superstar. and we've had previously people calling her a grifter. Which do you think is right?
I think Netflix are at the point where they thought if back in 2020, which is when I think they offered them the deal, they just found a room and put a bunch of cash in it and set it on fire, that would have been a better use of their money. I don't think they've got any value for money with this couple, which is fine. I don't blame them. It was obviously a business risk taking them on, but I think a year or two...
Harry and Meghan the series.
Yeah, exactly. I think 2 years into it, they realized they'd sunk money into the world's most boring couple that needed like a lifetime supply of money to pay for their security. I think that's what it boiled down to. And Harry actually said that. He said, I was offered this and I needed to pay for my family's security.
But that's Harry. Meghan is who they're investing in. It's Meghan that
but there's nothing there. She's very, again, I'm not saying this to be horrible. She is not an entertainer or an entertaining person. There's not much personality there. I never learn anything from her. I love lifestyle shows. I watch them every day. I don't learn anything. I didn't learn anything from hers. And she's just not entertaining. She's not a fun person to be around. You don't think this is the person I want to go to the pub with to have a pint with, because it's just like, it's going to be vocal fry and oh my God, the newspaper. It's very clear that she is not box office in terms of entertainment quality. But that's okay.
I was going to say, look, if you're going to take a step back, right, it's no surprise that she is, I think, at her most unpopular point at the moment in England. So it's not a surprise still that, a lot of people here didn't take to her the product that she's been putting out. But it's not just that. When we're speaking of the possible third season, it's not just that. It's the fact that major Hollywood industry publications like The Hollywood Reporter and Variety, I mean, they were the ones writing the negative reviews about Meghan, where traditionally, you would think that they would probably be a little bit more favourable. And so that's what I'm saying. When you take that step back, it appears to be across the board. They weren't particularly well received. The show wasn't particularly well received, which is why I was surprised to hear about season 3. Again, not because, a lot of the people that, she's a very polarising figure, obviously, but the fact that it was so critically slammed made it very surprising that they would invest beyond season 2, which I believe had already been filmed.
Well, Netflix, they are keen on her. They are investigating. I think it goes deeper. Their relationship goes deeper than we kind of really imagine. As ever, with the brand, I think we're now told that they're not going to restock.
Yeah.
Oh, this is from the podcast.
Yes, that was
a
a
topic on the podcast where she
yeah.
mentioned that, I might not restock this year.
She might go into a rebrand and I kind of veer into fashion, for example. As ever isn't just going to be.
This just plays into the whole thing. There's just, where's the direction? Where are they going? They're just throwing mud at a wall and hoping something
it's low risk. She's literally losing nothing. This is, when I tell you, this is the same strategy that every woman with a very wealthy husband who's just pumping enough into her business to keep her happy. This is exactly what's happening. When Sue was saying, they had an initial launch and they did really well because they sold out. Well, how many units did you actually sell? She could have sold 50 jars, and if it sold out, it's sold out. And that's a success in her book. We don't know anything. We don't know the metrics of this business. And it's clearly in its infancy. It's still finding its feet and all of that. She doesn't really know what she's doing. Again, which is fine because you can hire people that do. But to go from selling jam and shortbread and all of that, which is reportedly sold out, to not restocking and then kind of having this haphazard view of what you're going to do next and potentially go into fashion, she doesn't know what she's doing. It's just a hobby. But that's fine because she's rich and hot.
You feel it's more of a hobby rather than an actual...
There's not a single person that looks to Meghan Markle as some sort of business or commercial genius.